Hi everyone, Cassie Jordan here with Reline Unknown. I am interviewing Don LeBlanc today with DLVEWs. Him and I have been spending a lot of time together inspecting culverts this week. We decided what we'd like to talk to you guys about on this Reline Unknown podcast is some of the interesting calls that we get, if you will, right?
Sure, absolutely.
Things that people call randomly and say, hey, this is the situation we have, what would you recommend? Maybe some interesting job sites we've been on and deciding how we recommend a product or why that product would fit for that particular application. And then what we're gonna do, since we're sitting here together in person, which hasn't happened in a year, is follow this Reline Unknown up with a Reline Live where you guys can actually get on, ask us questions, bring your interesting culvert inspections or culvert issues, whether you're an engineer, a DOT, whatever it might be, and Don and I will in real time kind of talk about solutions that might work.
I think that's going to be fun.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think so too.
The challenging ones are where I have the most fun.
Yes.
You know, it's because there's a lot of different applications out there and every situation is different.
Yep. So let's kick it off with a call that you had yesterday while I was riding with you.
Sure.
I don't know if it was a New York DOT. I think it was maybe a New York DOT. Okay.
Yep.
And I'm not going to name names. He called and said, I saw on LinkedIn that you might be working with this manufacturer. Do you represent this product? Is that what you'd recommend? And how did you answer it?
Well,
because I love listening.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, the premise of the company is to really look at each solution as its own unique entity, right? So, I asked him for more details about the project. I knew a little bit because he had called me the week prior. I'm actually going to go visit this culvert with him next week, so we did schedule that. So it's an infield. We're walking the site together, and you and I both do that. We love doing it. But my answer to him is I represent both of the companies that he asked about, and in this particular instance, really just whatever is going to suit two things. The hydraulics and the structural needs is the best. Right. So, and usually hydraulics governs there because everything you and I represent is AASHTO. So it's all AASHTO LRFD. It all passes the sniff check, if you may, when we talk about structural and highway and dead loads. So really the big question mark is hydraulics. You know, are we going to meet the flow? Are we going to exceed the flow? Can we solve that problem for the DOT?
Yeah.
And so the answer is absolutely both, and we just got to figure out which one's going to be best for the application.
Yeah, and he initially was like, oh, he thought maybe you had went to represent a new product or a new company, and you're like, no, I represent multiple companies,
yes.
And it doesn't mean I no longer represent that one and this one's better. It means I still need to come see the culvert and decide, right?
Yeah, it was nice. I don't have to go into any particular culvert inspection with one thing in mind. I can go with all the tools in mind and then make my determination and share those thoughts with the client at that point in time and say, here's why I believe this is the right solution for you.
Yeah. So I got an interesting call last week. I got a call from a gentleman who basically said, my guys took out like a hole in my double wall HDPE pipe. Right?
Yes.
So I said, what do you mean, how big is this hole? And he said, well, I think it's about 6 inches.
Yeah.
And he's like, I think I saw something on your website that is a solution to patch a pipe.
Right.
He said, well, you got to send me pictures and you got to send me some more information. And sure as shit.
Right.
Hydrotite is the right fix for it. I mean, he can go in and it looks like the excavator just punctured a 24-inch and a 48-inch. So
during the handling process of the pipe?
No, with installation.
Oh, I didn't see that.
So they had already put the pipe in the ground.
And he was backfilling it?
Yeah, and so they did not want to dig it back out because of the location where they were at.
Sure.
So he wanted a solution to just fix a couple of holes in a pipe.
Well, it just goes to show you, it doesn't matter if it's a 6-inch deformation or if it's the whole culvert's failing. You and I have the solutions to help.
Right. It was an interesting one though I hadn't seen before. Brand new pipe that just got put in the ground, but they didn't want to tear that brand new pipe back out.
Super unfortunate situation.
Yeah. But there's a solution.
Right. So, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and those are the unique calls that you and I appreciate because it's different. It's like, okay, I have this problem. how do I fix it? And they don't know. They truly, you know, it's they're reaching out to you because you're the expert. And to me, that's what makes this job so fun. Is knowing the answers to those problems and being able to be somewhat creative almost and say, hey, here's what your options are, Mr. or Mrs. Engineer or contractor, but here's what I have to offer you.
Right.
So I like the unique phone calls. You know, it's like, even if you have to tell that person, I got to call you back, I got to think about this for half an hour, you know, it's like, to me, that keeps it fun.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But
what other, let's see, it's other interesting ones. The one that I forwarded you even and said, wow, I'm not stumped, I think I know, but it was those 16 by 6 box culverts.
Right.
Like, crazy. I ran the hydraulics on what the engineer wanted, and even if I stacked 363-inch snap tights, I still couldn't get them to the hydraulics they wanted.
Right.
So that's when I went to, okay, let's see, what else, what can we custom design, right? And that's
Yes.
where we ultimately went channel lined.
Right.
And gave them channel line. I mean, this is budgetary for probably end of next year because it's going to be so expensive and it's such a big project. But
Right.
that's, I mean, that's the solution. When you look at all your options, there's only so many things that will work.
Yeah, I mean, literally, there may not, in that instance that you just described, there may
Yeah.
not be another option. What are you going to do? Dig up, 30 feet of earth underneath whatever interstate you might be talking about?
Railroad, I think it was.
Or a railroad.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Take the railroad out of commission,
Right.
And in that scenario, Cassie and I are constantly talking about, these scenarios where they cannot dig. So the only alternative is to line, and it may be a budget situation. Yeah, we got to line this. There's no other option. And the dig and replace or the do nothing is more expensive a scenario than actually lining a couple years down the road.
Yeah.
So indeed, that ends up being a project 2 to 3 years from now.
Yeah.
But those box culverts are unique challenges for the reline industry in general, because prior to channel line or GRP, there's not a lot of shapes or material solutions out there for relining necessarily of a box culvert.
Yeah.
That is cost affordable, let's say. There's other options out there, but they're big time money, and then you're talking about really budgeting 5-10 years down the road for that project.
Yeah.
So.
Have you ever run into an engineer that is just stuck on fused pipe? I mean, they're big fans of solid wall and HDP, but they have a hard time wrapping their head around a leak-free joint.
In a sense, it comes up. Yeah, I mean, especially if that individual is unaware of what snap tight is and what it can do, right?
I was thinking even, snap tight, our profile wall HDPs that are bell and spigots,
Right.
that they think fused pipe is the only way it can be watertight.
Yeah, and to me, if it's a watertight necessity, right? How often do you and I run it? Not often at all, right? It's what I feel like our ability is to do, educate the masses in the fact that we are stormwater people. Mostly. Once in a while we get into a sanitary application, but we're stormwater people. So we are often trying to get what we call a grout tight joint in the ground. We're not trying for a watertight joint. So watertight is one of those words in the industry. I've been hearing it since day one that I got into the stormwater business when I started working at Contec, is the word watertight.
Yeah.
And everyone's definition on any given day is different.
All right.
Based on pressure, based on what is truly watertight. Is the application a cistern in which we're using, if I'm expecting 40,000 gallons in this watertight tank, it better be there because I'm using it for fire suppression, for example, or rainwater harvesting. Or is it watertight in the sense that all I need that joint to do is hold back grout until that culvert's in the ground and locked in place.
Because once it's grouted, the water's not getting through.
And for that matter, it doesn't matter. It's stormwater pipe.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, if a drop of water gets through, it's not a big deal. It's not like you're counting on that one drop of water to make it from one end to the other, versus in a cistern or some sort of rainwater harvesting tank.
Right.
You're looking for that water, right?
And so that's an education in the industry, whether you're an engineer, a DOT, or a maintenance crew member, what watertight means in stormwater application.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because I feel like you and I run into that a lot.
We do. I mean, it's been coming up.
Yeah.
How long have I been in this industry? 13 years now. So it's been coming up ever since
Right.
then. And I kind of dial it back when I get those calls or those comments. Is it watertight? Why do you need it to be watertight? What is the finished application?
Yeah.
Is it a culvert, or is it a cistern, or is it something else?
Mm-hmm.
Let's define that a little bit, because there's there's all kinds of joints out there. There's soil tight, there's water tight, there's grout tight. You know, there's a variety of joints that the industry recognizes, and they all mean different things. So for you and me, most of the time, it's a grout tight joint in the culvert space, right? But yeah, that's another unique question that we get all the time. You heard it earlier today. We're working on a dam where it might be crucial that the hydrostatic pressure pass on the pipe and the joint. So that might be one of those scenarios where fused pipe does make more sense. But both Cassie and I have the ability to source that fused pipe and solve that engineer and owner's problem with fusible pipe.
Yeah.
And so there are opportunities out there for utilizing what's called butt fused HDPE, high density polyethylene, for lining of horizontal or vertical infrastructure.
Yeah. And one thing I always try and do too when we're pricing or bidding projects that are stormwater and they're culvert reline, and a contractor's, they know how to fuse pipe, but they never necessarily use like a snap tight pipe, is give them the cost breakdown of here's snap tight, here's what a fusion machine costs, here's how many, and this is from the fusion world of ISCO, here's how many joints you can fuse in a day on, let's say 54 inch. This is a job in Wyoming that we were quoting, and here's what you can do in snap tight in a day. Yeah. And compare two teams, sitting here heating up a fusion machine, cooling the joint. I mean, so here's your time and money, and we can save you money typically with snap tight.
Right.
I mean, it's when you put the numbers side by side.
Yeah.
So sometimes I have to lay that out though, because if a contractor is just comfortable with one thing, that's what they're gonna do.
Sure.
We all get uncomfortable out of our zone.
It's new, right?
Yeah.
If it's not known to them, it's new. And perfect example, I had a guest out with me 2 weeks ago. He's a grouting subcontractor of mine who's looking to establish himself, and he had never seen snap tight go together, but he's looking to do some annular space grouting in the future. And we put in 54 inch down in Connecticut, and that joint went together in literally 8 minutes.
Yeah.
So to your point, the fact that you don't have to wait for anything to heat up or cool before you can push or pull the joint, and 54 inch would be one heck of a thing to butt fuse anyway.
Yeah.
But
it's a big fusion machine.
That's a big fusion machine.
Right.
That pipe went together so quick, and they had all 5 sticks in before lunchtime and building bulkheads, and then the following morning they grouted, they were done. So literally it's a very quick process, and those are the unique phone calls that I enjoy, because it's like, I don't want to say you're educating an individual, but you're giving them another tool in their toolbox to where they're fully understanding what the capacity of snap tight in that case can do for them, or any other solution that you and I might bring up on any given day. So I feel like that's kind of a neat hat that you and I wear, is that we're able to look at these jobs not with one little kind of microscope, but we can look at it with various glasses on, and then give our feedback and allow them to make the best choice from there.
Yeah. Well, we this week were able to go to a couple of multi-plate lining jobs, which was very interesting.
Yeah.
From Contec creates or manufactures those.
Right.
So those are, and that's something I've never seen. So to me, I was like, well, this is just, I mean, I knew it was something that's an option out there.
Sure.
But now I feel like I want to go find more big culverts and
well, you can see the power of viewing these things in the field, and
Yeah.
how dilapidated some of this infrastructure is.
crazy.
I mean, it's been there for 50 plus years.
And that's its design life.
Right.
I mean, it's lived its design life, and now it's time to fix it.
Correct.
And you're not going to tear out a 6-lane highway.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
I mean, you and I stood on the side of it and going, there's no way you're tearing this out.
Right. Especially under 80 feet of fill.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Is like there's so much value to be brought in the fact that both Cassie and I, we can come out and help you guys in the field, and just we can tell you what that hose pipe was when it was buried 50, 60 years ago by looking at it.
Yeah.
And offer some of that insight during the design phase. So for me, that's another unique part. It's like, oh, okay, well, we've got a new challenge today to go solve. It's like you're almost like an investigator. You know, you're figuring out what. I told you about the DOT job down in Massachusetts. Like, we were inspecting that job 3 years ago for like 3 hours straight. We were looking at this pipe trying to figure out what was going on. What was the failure mechanism that caused that pipe to start to fail? And we were able to figure it out. And here we are 3 years later solving that problem with a solution. So I really enjoy that part of it, truly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is fun. I mean, But getting to see the different solutions out there, I think is, I mean, for me, you've been doing this a lot longer. So me getting out in the field with my counterparts in other areas of the country gives me a better perspective of what options are out there, what crazy designs are out there. I mean, you're New England, you've got a lot of older infrastructure than we do in Idaho. So we see probably in the Northwest more of your standard box culverts and things like that.
You see a lot of box culverts?
We do see a lot of box culverts. I mean,
yeah.
that's a pretty common thing out there versus some of the crazy shapes that you guys have had installed 60 years ago.
Do you have a lot of depth out there too, for the most part? Or?
You do in some states. You get a lot, like Wyoming, you have pretty deep cover.
Right.
You also have a lot of snow, so it depends on if it's frozen ground. There's a lot. So we've seen some interesting things in Wyoming. You see a lot in Utah.
Sure.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Animal crossings, we do a lot of TV pipe supply has been involved in a lot of bridges that are for animal crossings.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Cattle and things of that nature.
Deer mostly and
Deer.
elk. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that they don't get hit on the major freeways.
Right.
Yeah, so that's
of course.
Yeah, so there's been some fun stuff there.
That's unique. I mean, see that right there.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of that out here. You guys don't have a lot of the mountainous areas we do here, though.
You haven't had the opportunity to see any moose out this way yet.
No, I've seen the crossings.
You've seen the signs though.
Yeah, I'm like, there's moose out here.
Yeah, that'd be a big culvert, right?
Right. Wow. Yeah, it would be a big culvert.
Well, we do. I mean, we have some very old infrastructure out here. I mean, that goes to the sanitary side too. I mean, we've got some old sanitary sewers. We got wooden water mains out here. I don't know if you've ever seen those, but literally I can go into a lot of different water departments and there's all kinds of it sitting on shelves. I mean, I still run into water departments that'll say, I just dug that wooden water main out of the ground. So can you imagine a tree trunk basically with a whole cord through it? There's some very old infrastructure out this way.
I know, isn't that crazy though?
It is.
Your water's still going through wood.
But even those guys, those guys and gals, they're all excited about it. Like, look at that old tree trunk that was used for a water main that we just dug out last week.
Yeah.
You know, it's unique.
I know.
It's very unique, and to see what they built 50, 60 to 100 years ago is just it's amazing to me.
Right.
Yeah.
So what else? I'm trying to think of some other cool projects that maybe we could talk to them about, and some questions that we get that are just out of left field that we really have to think about.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I think one of the biggest questions in general, and I don't want to take up too much time, but I think one of the biggest questions we always get, and I want to thank you for inviting me to do those grouting webinars that we've done in the past.
Oh, grouting, yeah.
Is grout.
Yeah.
And it's not even necessarily pipe related, right? But it's the number one question that any installer, whether it be a contractor, a municipality, or a DOT maintenance crew, asks us. Now, shared experience, you agree?
Yeah, grout. It's the scariest part of it too.
Right.
It's not the slip lining the pipe, it's filling the annular space after and you're gonna have to do it no matter what slip lining product you use.
Right. So a lot of these folks, I mean, they've laid pipe for years. They know how to put pipe together. This is a little different, but okay, it's pipe, it's got a bell and spigot, or it's got a whatever connection, right? That's something. And then the grouting is really, I think, 75% of the questions that you get on any given day.
Yeah.
That's a general rule of thumb, but for me, and I know Cassie, grouting is one of the things that always comes up as a question mark.
Yeah. It's density, it's pressure, it's how much so there's a lot of
distance.
Yes.
Pumpability.
Mm-hmm.
Because you and I could be doing a 60-foot culvert one day and then a 600-foot-long culvert in Massachusetts the next day, right?
Yeah, and how do you build that grout?
Exactly.
How do you build? So those are, they're still not easy for me to answer, but because of you and the education I've gotten, I feel better answering.
I appreciate that.
I feel better answering. And now I've been on a few grouting jobs, and I'm like, oh.
Right.
It is as easy as we say it is, but you have to build their confidence of it's really, we've got the right charts, we've got the right design guides to give them, no matter what the product is.
Right.
And it's just different based on, like you were saying when we were talking about Duramax.
Sure.
Duramax is a lighter pipe, right? So you have to be more careful maybe than some of our denser pipes.
Sure.
When you go to grout.
Yeah.
It's just the uniqueness of the pipe you're using that you're grouting around.
Well, for that matter, there's not a lot of folks. It's like anything education-wise. There's a lot of new engineers in the industry. Cellular grout's been around for decades.
Yeah.
And it's not new necessarily, but it's something that folks still don't fully know of. And so once in a while, we catch ourselves, you and I both catch ourselves, talking to someone who's never heard of low density cellular concrete or lightweight grout, whatever you're calling it on that day, right? And so it's a new concept. It's still something I work with a lot of DOTs here in the Northeast. I'm trying to actually get them to specify it as a specifiable item because it is a material going in on their construction site. They can spec it. There exists ASTMs and all that for that material. But, it's something that folks don't often understand completely because some folks is new. And I think there's a lot of benefit that can come from low density cellular concrete in those annulus applications because they can succeed with that process or product, I should say, and have faith in what they're doing and give them that confidence that at the end of the day, I'm going to put that job in right.
Yeah.
Versus a flow fill, which has a boatload of sand or something like that, makes it 135 pounds cubic foot. Very dense,
Very
hard to push. You got to put pressure behind it. You might buckle or float or do something to the liner pipe. And that doesn't matter if it's HDP, metal, you name it. Everything floats and everything's got a buckling pressure, right?
Yeah.
So
that's that's one of the bigger educational things, which we've done a lot of Reline Lives on.
Oh, yeah.
But we still are probably going to have to do more, I'm sure.
It'd be my pleasure. Anytime someone gets that question. We were talking today with Trav about the fact that he wanted to do a class with some of his DOT clients on grouting because they were there taking samples, 3x6 cylinders, and he was like, hey, look, we ought to do a class on this because there's all kinds of questions about how to properly take samples of liquid cellular concrete and how to test those for break strengths. So we're thinking about doing a bigger kind of educational thing like live, hopefully. We'd love to do something with a bunch of folks locally.
Yeah.
And same thing for you. I'm sure your DOTs probably could use it too.
It's one of those that could we even do it on a national level, or is it something we should keep to the local level? It comes up everywhere.
Everywhere. And to answer your question, probably nationally, the whole nation could benefit, right? As far as every DOT could benefit from cellular grout.
Yeah.
But, Trav and I know just with what we've done here in the Northeast that there's a lot more that we could do to tell the folks about cellular concrete and how to test it.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to leave us with this, and what we really are hoping you guys will do is join us on our next Reline Live.
Yeah, that'd be
right?
awesome. Yeah.
We want engineers, DOTs, municipalities, come with your questions, come with your culverts. If you want to even share us with pictures in advance, we'll put them up on the screen. We'll walk through kind of what we're looking at. If you guys have camera footage, it'll be the funnest Reline Live because it'll probably be the most interactive.
I would think.
Yeah.
Bring the challenging ones too. It can be simple, but when we were talking to Travis earlier today, we talked about those pipes that may be partially failed but not completely failed.
Right.
We still have solutions for those.
Right.
I would encourage you folks to think out of the proverbial box and bring us the challenging ones because Cassie and I like those. We have the solutions for you. So and if we don't, we'll tell you.
But it'll be fun in real time. Remember, you're also educating other municipalities and DOTs and engineers around the country. We get people joining literally across the country now on our Reline Lives.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So I get people from New Jersey all the way to California. So I really think it's cool for you guys to be educational to other areas of the country because their infrastructure is different, but we're all running into the same problems. And if we need to go an hour, we'll do an hour.
Absolutely.
We've done it before.
It'd be my pleasure. Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you guys for joining Reline Unknown. Don, thank you for an amazing week in May.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to coming back. So until next time, we'll see you guys again on Reline Live. Reline Unknown.
Bye, guys.
America's aging underground infrastructure will need to be dealt with in the upcoming years. Our mission with Reline Unknown is to help individuals and organizations gain insight into the pipe, reline, and infrastructure world and help process the key decision, reline or replace. Thank you for listening.